even a little bit of research into the mysterious text we call the Emerald Tablets will quickly leave you baffled. While the translations reveal ancient secrets once known only by hermetic magicians, alchemists and other initiates, the origins of this work are not so clear at all. Conflicting information, confusing speculation and heated opinions surround the Emerald Tablets text. In fact, depending on what you read or who you trust, this body of work is a mere 1,200 years old, or a whopping 38,000. The tablets have been described as rectangular green slabs or plaques with exquisite, bas-relief lettering. A lettering which appears similar to the ancient Phoenician script. And while the many translations over the centuries all source their origin from these carved emerald stones, the original objects are nowhere to be found. At least not to this day. If there is a set of emerald stones carved with alchemical secrets, where might they be? Some say they're buried within a vault somewhere on the Giza Plateau. Others say they're within the equally mysterious, and hidden, Ark of the Covenant. To explain it in the most basic terms, the text of the Emerald Tablets is a summary of the principles of alchemy. It is where the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone is described. And those secrets are all about transmutation. Occult history buffs and students tend to agree that the tablets were originally uncovered around 1350 BC, in a hidden chamber under the Egyptian pyramid of Cheops. But this is not the only tale of their discovery. Despite the mystery surrounding the tablets, and the origins of alchemy in general, among alchemists today and those in the past there is almost complete agreement. Alchemy's origins lay in the pre-pharaonic land of Egypt. It was a gift from the gods during the first time. According to this legend, a group of gods or godlike beings arrived in Egypt. These beings shared with the people an advanced technology which enabled them to literally transform matter. It was during this time that Thoth was said to have crafted or brought the Emerald Tablets to humanity, more than 12,000 years ago. One of the key truths revealed in the Emerald Tablets is the notion of as above, so below. If indeed, the origins of this message come from some long-lost tablets, that means all the wisdom of the ancient Egyptians is itself but a copy of something much older. Could the Emerald Tablets be the source book for both the Egyptian mystery schools and all Western religious traditions? We know that Judaism, Islam and Christianity all share certain principles which link back to Abrahamic traditions. However you choose to interpret the texts as they've been translated down through the ages, one thing with far less room for interpretation is the existence of the tablets at all. Despite compelling arguments by sages, alchemists and mystics, we have yet to find, or re-find, the stones. Were there indeed slabs of emerald carved with formulae for magic by an ancient king of a long-lost world? If so, where did it go? We may never know the answers to the mystery behind the Emerald Tablets' origins, their true nature or even their existence at all. What we do know is that the information as it has come down to us reveals secrets which alchemists throughout the ages had long sought to keep hidden from the world. Information you and I may use to transform matter. Or perhaps, even ourselves? What's your take on the Emerald Tablets? Leave a comment below.
This is a serious question. The godmother of your daughter, Shirley MacLaine, writes in her new book that you sighted a UFO over her home in Washington State, that you found the encounter extremely moving, that it was a triangular craft, silent and hovering, that you felt a connection to your heart and heard directions in your mind. Now, did you see a UFO?
I did, and the rest of the account, I didn't, it was unidentified flying object, okay? It's like, it's unidentified. I saw something. Now, to answer your question, I'm moving and I'm also going to move my campaign office to Roswell, New Mexico, and another one in Exeter, New Hampshire, okay? And also you have to keep in mind that Jimmy Carter saw a UFO, and also that more people in this country have seen UFOs and I think approve of George Bush's presidency.
Actually,
and so wait, we're just getting started here.
No. I mean, we have about 14% of Americans say they have seen UFOs. I'm going to move.
What was the percentage?
14%.
What was that percentage?
14.
Thank you.
I want to see. I'm going to ask Senator Obama.
Has the humble $1 bill just blown the cover of our alien overlords? If you ever suspected life on Earth was under the scrutiny of alien beings, this new perspective could solidify your ideas. By changing the contrast on an image of the bill, it is revealed what is claimed to be the image of an alien overlord hidden in plain sight. Could these creepy coins prove that aliens lived among the ancient Egyptians? The money seems to depict an alien's head and a spaceship hovering over the Earth. A set of ancient Egyptian coins could be proof that an alien race visited Earth thousands of years ago. One coin, found during a house renovation in Egypt, seems to depict a spaceship hovering above the ground. This ancient coin seems to show the head and shoulders of an alien.
وربما حتى قسم كبير من الناس اللي في محافظة ذي قار لا يعلمون أن أول المطارات التي أنشئت في كوكب الأرض قبل 5000 سنة قبل الميلاد أنشئت في ذي قار. واللي ما يصدق يقرأ كتاب المؤرخ الكبير المتخصص في الدراسات السومرية زكريا سينشن، أو يعود إلى كتب صاموئيل كريمر، أو يعود إلى الكتاب الذي ألفه أجي ويلز حول هذا الموضوع والذي يحمل عنوان باللغة الإنجليزية History Begins from Sumer. التاريخ يبدأ من سومر. كان يتكلم عن أولى المطارات التي أنشئت في كوكب الأرض، أنشئت في هذا المكان. إن هذا المكان هو أأمن مكان تهبط فيه الطائرات وتقلع منه الطائرات، لأن هناك بعض المؤثرات الجوية التي تثقل تحركات الطائرة وتحد من مناورتها غير موجودة في مطار ذي قار. يعني في مش مطار ذي قار، في كل أجواء ذي قار أجواء آمنة للطائرات، ليست فيها أي مؤثرات جوية سلبية. كل ما يتوفر في أجواء ذي قار هو أجواء إيجابية، بمعنى أن السومريين لما استقروا في هذه الأرض كانوا يعلمون تماما أن هذه الأرض بأجواءها هي أجواء ملائمة للتحليق في الفضاءات، وكان من هنا تنطلق المركبات الفضائية السومرية نحو الكواكب الأخرى. والسومريين أول من اكتشف الكوكب رقم 12 الذي اعترفت به وكالة نازل الفضاء قبل بضعة أيام، والذي أطلقوا عليه نيبيرو، ويدور حول الشمس ب 3600 سنة كل دورة.
During a press conference that was supposed to discuss the opening of a new airport in Dakar, Iraq's Transport Minister, Qasem Finjan, surprised reporters when he diverted from the talking points to claim that the ancient Middle Eastern nation's location was once home to space stations built by extraterrestrials. Finjan referred to the ancient astronaut theorist Zecharia Sitchin, saying, "I invite those who doubt to read the book of the great Sumerian historian Zecharia Sitchin, or the books of Samuel Kramer, including one entitled History Begins at Sumer, which speaks of the first airport constructed on planet Earth. The particularity of this place is that it remains the safest for the landing and takeoff of aircraft, due to favorable weather conditions. When the Sumerians settled on this land, they were aware of this and have chosen specifically for their flights to other planets." Zecharia Sitchin was an author who wrote and promoted the ancient astronaut theory before his death, on October 9, 2010, decades before the ancient aliens became a worldwide sensation on History Channel. Within ufology and forbidden archaeology circles, Sitchin is often credited for revealing the hidden history and origins of humanity, based on alleged alternative translations of Sumerian tablets from antiquity. However, these interpretations are hotly contested, and some now believe that Sitchin was a disinformation agent for certain hidden forces that wanted to promote an agenda that might have had an air of truth to it. One of Sitchin's claims is regarding ancient sites in the Middle East in Egypt and the Palestine-Israel area, which he says were once home to space stations used by the Anunnaki for thousands of years. He also claims that they were abandoned by the non-terrestrial overlords of the Sumerian people until 3,000 years ago, despite the fact that Sitchin may have fabricated his translations. He is not the only one who believes that ancient aliens once lived amongst the people of Earth, providing tools to build contemporary-style civilizations. Mainstream archaeology has yet to offer an explanation of how the Sumerian culture seemed to spring forth out of obscurity. Fully formed and complete with writing, financial systems, law, building techniques and many other features of advanced civilization. The fields of ufology and forbidden archaeology are replete with claims and examples of advanced beings assisting people in ancient times. But some intrepid researchers, like Graham Hancock, claim that before the Diluvian period of approximately 11,000 years ago, there were many very advanced societies, which possessed knowledge modern humans are only now beginning to rediscover. The pyramids of Egypt, despite allegedly being built by craftsmen using Copper Age tools, cannot be reproduced with all the splendor of modern technology. Furthermore, the little recognized site of Göbekli Tepe was determined to be at least 10,000 years old, and probably much older, using standard dating techniques. And there are still other megalithic sites found throughout the world that form a growing body of evidence to suggest current views of human history are woefully inaccurate. If Sitchin's debunkers are to be believed, then it suggests that someone in the know supplied him with information some 20 years before discoveries of antediluvian sites were unearthed. Perhaps those hidden forces that possess knowledge of humanity's true origins are trying to sow seeds of truth through agents like Sitchin in an effort to one day unveil a more authentic narrative of history. If so, it would mean the currently held views of people on Earth are nothing more than a fabrication made to service a hidden agenda. As a final note, several insiders and whistleblowers claim that the human race is much older than what academics have suggested. They say that there have been many floods or cataclysms and conflagrations that have ravaged the surface of the Earth. Those cultures that possessed advanced technology and knowledge are said to have taken refuge below the Earth, and remained waiting for the surface to stabilize after catastrophes. In one such example, a group of humans closely related to people living on the surface, claims to have built a long-lasting civilization in deep caverns below the Earth's crust. One whistleblower claims to have met these beings, which he calls the Anshar, that claim to have watched over humanity for over 12 to 18 million years, an unbelievable assertion for many. While these theories remain unsubstantiated, The fact that geneticists have proven the human race's current lineage can be traced back at least 240,000 years suggests that indeed modern man could have seen the rise of many different advanced civilizations. Consider how much technological advancement has occurred in the past 1,000 years alone, and the supposition of ancient cultures taking refuge from periodic cataclysms seems more plausible. For now, the Iraqi minister's claims are viewed by many as wildly unsupportable. But for some who are brave enough to question the status quo, a great mystery has yet to be solved, one that could in the future change the way humanity understands its place on Earth and in the cosmos at large. Giant hairy sea monster has been washed up on the eastern coast of Russia. Locals have failed to identify the creature and are appealing to scientists to name the baffling behemoth. A video shows the hulking, smelly carcass found on the Pacific coastline of the Kamchatka Peninsula close to the remote village of Pakaki. The chalk-colored beast, reported to be larger than 3 men, appears to have a tail or long tentacle, and tube-like hair or fur. It has no definite head or eyes and was too...
The Anunnaki created life in Africa, and then spread out to Aztecs, the Mayans, Sumerian, and Egyptian pharaoh civilizations. The Sumerian civilization lived in Mesopotamia between 5000 BC and 1750 BC. Their gods were called the Anunnaki. They had technology that was amazing for the time. Their gods were called those who from heavens to earth came. The Anunnaki genetically engineered humans to be their slaves, spread out across the globe. They also drove the Neanderthals to extinction in Europe because they made the best slaves. The Baltic Sea anomaly was found in 2011. It's shaped like a spaceship and it has a 1,000-foot trail. The Nebra sky disk is one of the oldest known representations of the cosmos, and the Pleiades are represented in the top right. This was created in 1600 BC and it's from Nebra, Germany. This part of the sky must have been very important to them. The Pleiades are represented by the bull, and early Europeans knew where they came from. Head binding is always done in Anunnaki controlled territories. Like I said before, the Anunnaki created humans for slave workers. This is the Sumerian creation myth, the Greek creation myth, and also the Egyptian creation myth. When the Pleiadians came to Earth around 2000 BC, they was called the Hebiru or Hebrew by the Anunnaki. The first invasion failed with many prisoners taken. In the Turkish military, Pleiades means an ambush, so maybe they're giving us clues. This is represented by the taming of the bull in the Gilgamesh epic. After this victory, the Anunnaki celebrated their victory by inventing games like bull leaping, bull fighting. Also, if you notice where they stabbed the bull, is where the Pleiades are found in the constellation of Taurus. After this, a second attempt was made, and this was successful. They rescued the Hebiru, or Pleiadians, from Egypt, but in this second war there was weapons of mass destruction used. Evidence for this can be found in the Sinai Peninsula. There is more evidence for a nuclear war in the Sumerian text. They described nuclear weapons being fired from Africa, a spaceport called Babel destroyed. This story is also told in Norse mythology as Ragnarok. Ragnarok in Norse mythology was the predestined death of the Germanic gods. Ragnarok in Norse mythology marks the end of the old world and the beginning of the new current world. Loki is always depicted differently to the other gods. In the Prose Edda, Surtur will spray fire over the earth and burn the entire world. Sounds like a nuclear weapon. So in the Norse mythology, the final battle was with the giant. After the battle, the flames that he brings forth will engulf the earth. Surtur will come from the south with flames, carrying a very bright sword. This definitely sounds like a rocket. This is also very similar to the biblical stories of the angels with flaming swords who expelled Adam and Eve from paradise. Giants are also mentioned in Deuteronomy, a people great and many and tall as the Anakins, but the Lord destroyed them before them, and then they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. So is this the Pleiadians, the Hebiru, who dwelt in the stead of the Anunnaki? Only King Oowk survived, and they go into detail about his length. There is also mention of the Pleiades in the stories of Hannibal's crossing of the European Alps, when he said it is almost time for the setting of the Pleiades. Alexander the Great also observed UFOs in a battle. Gleaming silver shields swooped down and made several passes over the battle. Alexander the Great's story is also told in Islam, Dal-Kuwari, and the story of Gog and Magog. Notice Alexander is depicted with horns on his head, and also a bull on the horse's rear. Alexander was supposed to have sealed an entrance to somewhere, but where was the entrance? But when the promise of my Lord comes to pass, he will make it level with the ground, pouring molten brass down some sort of cavern to block it up, it seems like. The legend of Gog and Magog are also told in the Alexander Romance, which is a story of Alexander's life, but mythological. Goth and Magog are kings of the unclaimed nations, blocked from returning by his new wall. Gog and Magog are said to engage in human cannibalism in the romances. So who is Gog and Magog? Gog and Magog, according to Romanized Jewish historian Josephus, are the Scythians, the Huns, Kazakhs, Mongols or other nomads. The Huns and the Scythians united to try and take Europe from the Pleiadians, but failed. The Scythians lived in the Eurasian steppes from about the 9th century BC until the 1st century BC. The Huns' arrival is associated with the migration westwards of the Scythian people, the Alans, by 370 AD. The Huns had arrived on the Volga, and by 430 AD the Huns had established a vast, if short-lived, dominion in Europe. Attila the Hun's empire fell in 465 AD. The Khazar Empire went from 460 AD to 965 AD. and the Akhenazis from 1000 AD to present day. The Anunnaki was masters of DNA manipulation, were the Mongols an Anunnaki cloned army. Is Allah the god of the Bible, or is Allah the moon god of ancient Arabia? After the Anunnaki fled the earth, there was apparently a moon base they went to. Is this why you see so much moon worship in Islam? They pray while bowing towards a meteorite in Mecca. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan starts at the sighting of a new crescent moon. Islam seems to just spread from nowhere. This was all going on at the same time, the spread of Islam and the spread of Christianity. Attempts were made to take back Europe from the Pleiadians, the French Renaissance, the Bolsheviks. The US was awarded the statue of Isis for siding with the Anunnaki. The British Empire outlawed slavery in 1838. Compared to the Soviet Union, that slaughtered 60 million Christians and enslaved the population. The Nazis were given highly advanced technology by the Anunnaki, and the Pleiadians give us Nikola Tesla, and he invented the precision approach radar which won us World War II. The Cold War is this same ancient war fought for thousands of years, with the Russians on the side of the Anunnaki and the British and Americans on the side of the Pleiadians. The Sea Peoples are the Hebrew Navy. They attacked ancient Egypt and other regions of the Mediterranean prior to and during the Late Bronze Age collapse. No one actually knows who the Sea Peoples are. They invaded Anatolia, Syria, Canaan, Phoenicia, Cyprus and Egypt. Everywhere you can see a black dot, that was the major cities, towns that were destroyed, civilizations wiped out, all within 50 years of each other. The Sea Peoples were recorded in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and the book of Joshua and Judges in the Old Testament. They was depicted with horns on the head. This is also the time of the Exodus and the Trojan War. The Sea People attacked in 1207 BC and again in 1177 BC, after which writing ceased everywhere apart from Egypt. The Medinet Hebrew are the basis of virtually all significant discussions of them. Ramses III wrote of 7 tribes that united against him. After they conquered, the Sea People just vanished. They fled to places like North India and to Europe, also New Zealand and Japan. In 1200 BC, all these empires start to fall. The Canaanites, the Egyptians. The Dark Age, it takes 200 to 300 years to recover from this ancient nuclear war. Around 1100 BC to 800 BC is the rise of Greece. Now the Pleiadians are ancient people and the ancestors of all the Indo-European people. These people was known to illuminate and give the culture to Europe. About them is known little, or better to say nearly nothing. Virgil said, "It is said that the first dwellers of our Italy were the Pleiadians." Homer mentions the Pleiadians allied with the Trojans in the Iliad. He also mentions the Pleiadian Zeus of Dodona in the Iliad. They taught many Europeans how to build out of stone. Pleiadian has come to mean, more broadly, all of the indigenous inhabitants of the Aegean Sea region and their culture, but they was Hellenized by the Greeks. The Pleiadians were called the Sea People since they were skillful and free navigators. The Pleiadians are also mentioned in the Odyssey and in the Iliad. It also appears that they did worship the bull, as did the Hebrews. Also at this time there was a lot of rape going on. The Sabine women were raped by the founders of Rome according to its legendary history. Everywhere you find horned warriors in history, this is Hebrew civilizations. The Persian army was rumoured to number in the millions. Was this an Anunnaki cloned army again? The term Brahmin meant originally one possessed of Brahman, a mysterious magical force widely known to modern anthropologists by the Milesian word mana. The Rig Veda is the oldest and perhaps most sacred of all Hindu scriptures. It contains the mythological origin of the Brahmin. The Mahabharata is one of the major two Sanskrit epics of ancient India. It talks of an ancient legendary war. Brahman is the core of the entire universe, so can be considered the nucleus, hence Brahmastra directly translates to nuclear weapon, the effects of which are described here. Voice-activated rockets were used in this war. And artificially intelligent flying saucers. So were nuclear weapons really used? According to its history, 1,660,000,000 people died. The Ashkenazis is the Anunnaki side, and then Pandava is the Pleiadians. A Sumerian tablet found in Iraq describes when Enki launched their nuclear weapons. Ninhursag delivered the charge before Enki, and the fate of the people were sealed. The Sumerians referred to their gods as Din-Gur, which when spelled out resembles a multi-stage rocket. The ancient Egyptians also depict such a vehicle in the Pharaoh's ascent to heaven. The Amarna tablets of the Hebrew conquest detail exactly what was going on. If you look at a lot of ancient symbols, you'll find a lot of reference to the Pleiadians.
The Anunnaki planet was considered to be Nibiru. However, Nibiru is not really the home of the Anunnaki. Sirius was. The name Anunnaki can mean many different things. Based on Hebrew interpretations, it is rich with meaning. An is short for Anaknu, which means we. Also means heaven. Naki means clean. So, the name can mean we are clean, and heaven is clean. They were tall, giant. In Hebrew the word for giants is Anakim. Their symbol is the winged disc, which represents their starships. These Anunnaki were later called the Elohim, and Nephilim. Those who descended, came down. Genesis 6:4 It is written, "The Lord said, My breath shall not abide in man forever, since he too is flesh, let the days be allowed him be 120 years. It was then, and later too, that the Nephilim appeared on earth, when the divine beings cohabited with the daughters of men, who bore them offspring. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Enlil was first to come to earth and was there even before mankind was created. The Sumerian texts called mankind the black-headed people. If anyone doubts the location of Eden, or why it was chosen by the Anunnaki as a locale, please read on from Genesis. Then, before there was any rain, he formed man, from the dust of the earth. He blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. The Lord God planted a garden in Eden, in the east, and placed the man whom he had formed, and then all the other life forms came into being, water, animals, minerals. This is part of Earth's story and occurred after there already was life on Earth, hominid beings. Hominids are distinctly human-like creatures, different from apes or chimpanzees. The Anunnaki came to Earth. Some of their crafts had crashed in the process, for a haven for themselves, and found it rich with gold, copper, silver and other minerals. They felt that here was their last chance for longevity, survival, and the gold was the best conductor of energy which had many important uses. They mined gold for a very long time, hundreds of thousands of years. What, according to the Old Testament, happened? God said, "Now that the man has become like one of us, knowing good and bad, what if he should stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat, and live forever?" So man was banished from Eden to work the soil from which he was taken. Further on in Genesis, we read, "The Lord saw how great was man's wickedness on earth, and how every plan devised by his mind was nothing but evil all the time. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and his heart was saddened. The Lord said, I will blot out from the earth the men whom I created, men together with beasts, creeping things, and birds of the sky, for I regret that I made them." But Noah found favor with the Lord. "For my part, I am about to bring the flood waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh under the sky in which there is breath of life. Everything on earth shall perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark, with your sons." This ark was symbolic and literal, not only a ship, but a covenant. It is written, "He created mankind from his blood, imposed the toil of the gods on man, and released the gods from it." When Ea the wise had created mankind, had imposed the toil of the gods on them, that deed is impossible to describe. In both the Enumerations and Addresses the reason for creating man is the same, to relieve the gods of hard labor. Enki is lord of earth. In the early days on earth, Enki's symbol was the crescent moon. The crescent moon relates to science, measuring, the ocean's tides, Enki's specialties. In later years, the crescent moon developed another association. In other ancient mythology, Enki is known as Oan, Ta, Quetzalcoatl, even as his own son, Thoth. The Anunnaki discussed the possible consequences if they shared the gold, the process of alchemy, with the humans. Some of the Anunnaki, such as the Syrian leader, Enki, were in favor of letting humans be free and equal to them. Other Anunnaki were angry because of the blending of the two life forms and the continual complaints humans had to the Anunnaki. One of the Anunnaki leaders who had no patience for humans was Enlil. Enlil was the prince of heaven and earth. He was in charge of airspace. He was chief of the gods and lord of Sumer. Enki and Enlil were half-brothers through the same father, Anu, who was the leader of this Anunnaki group. They also had to contend with Marduk, one of Enki's sons, who was proclaimed the greatest king of the gods. In later years, the symbol of the crescent moon was associated with Nanasin, Enlil's and Ninlil's son, who Sinai was named for, and who became known as Allah. Note the symbol, with the star, is used in Islam and is directly related to Enlil's side of the family. This is proof of the Battle of Hebrews versus Islam, actually a terrible, nuclear war between the Anunnaki and the Hebrews took place in the Sinai, and at the Great Pyramid, for control over the region. Not long after the Exodus, the other Anunnaki left their earthly influence, and their secrets of transforming gold into the powerful substance that allowed their longevity and spiritual abilities also vanished. Their knowledge about life was held in the hands of very few who began to abuse it and became greedy. Then, in time, humans who remembered died or disappeared. A lot of knowledge was lost. And yet, people kept trying to capture that special essence of gold in the form of statues or other such items, mistakenly believing that power equated to violence and destruction and hoarding wealth. They felt it was their key to immortality, that which would make them the god. The Anunnaki left the Earth, in a sense, but not without creating counterparts. Some of these continued the lineage through King David and Jesus. Some of these counterparts or aspects have stubbornly stuck to what they presume was Enlil's and Marduk's agenda to control the Earth for their own purposes, keeping humans more fearful, dependent, ignorant. Yet, others continued to share the ancient wisdom from other Anunnaki, encouraging humanity to remember their source, which they can access from within their individual and collective spiritual memories, in order to break the ancient and false bonds of slavery, fear and ignorance, and reclaim what they feel is rightfully theirs. As the Mars One project gathers pace in its mission to settle 16 astronauts on the Red Planet by 2032, designers, engineers and architects are competing to conceive of the ultimate Martian home. Far from rocket ships, these conceptual structures are sleek, stylish and unexpectedly bursting with life, human, natural and maybe even alien. As finalists in NASA's 3D Printed Habitat Challenge, Team Khan Yates presented a beautiful virtual vision of potential Mars habitation. The design was specifically created with dust storms and harsh climates in mind. The launched module lands on the planet and robotically expands into a very sleek, shell-like model, which then 3D prints the interior layers of the building. With housing long-term life at the forefront of their conception, Khan Yates' structure is built to sustain daylight for use in areas such as lab work and food production. A spiral staircase winds into the garden, allowing the astronauts to grow plants and food, just like they could on Earth. French 3D printing company Fabulous has designed Sphero, a bubble habitation it wants to send into space. The name was inspired by important elements needed to sustain life. Once landed, Fabulous claims it will use Martian soil alone, due to its iron oxide richness, to 3D print the structure. With anti-radiation technology in mind, the planet's permafrost will coat the double-domed structure in a pocket of water. Digital markups of the bubble house make it look super funky, as we see a helix staircase connect two distinct levels, a workspace and indoor garden on the top floor and sleeping quarters beneath. Surprisingly, the most appropriate building material for intergalactic housing may not be what you expect, ice. Or so design teams SE Arch and Cloudsau believe. Hence why they've created the ice house as a prototype for Martian living. Subsurface ice is abundant on Mars and can defend against harmful radiation, making it the ideal material for a space dwelling. A stunning piece of semi-translucent architecture, the group claims it celebrates the presence of a human habitat as a beacon of light on the Martian surface by using features that create stunning light refractions. The comfortable living area sits at the heart of the structure. Interior passages into the building's perimeter are intertwined with plant life and organic landscapes which merge with the planet. An in-between zone, separating the interior and exterior layers of the building, allows astronauts to experience the great outdoors without a suit. Hexagonal structures are no stranger to Martian home designs. Space architectural firm Oowk says their popularity is due to their prevalent geometry in nature. Oowk's HexHab starts with a hexagon as a building block to produce 3 levels of living areas, resulting in 140 square meters of space. This is sealed by a dome ceiling in order to evenly distribute pressure and gas. Oowk also designed the ArcHab, which favors sturdiness and efficiency, as part of its Mars projects. Powered by solar panels, it is an adaptable shelter built for more than just the Martian environment. It's also expandable and fit for lunar travel. Artist and designer Brian Versteeg is the creative vision behind the very Star Wars-esque conceptual colonies found on his website, spacehabs.com. In collaboration with Mars One, a project which seeks to establish a permanent community on the planet by 2025, he imagined a series of innovative structures on Mars that could explore the possibilities of outer space living. A must-have for the housing unit is sustainability, so a key feature of one of Versteeg's dome designs, reminiscent of Cornwall's Eden project, is its ability to grow produce. Anticipating human occupation, a sneak peek inside Mars One's living quarters reveals a forward-looking living space built around sociability. We've seen intergalactic homes above ground, but what about those burrowed below? German firm Architects has dreamt up a concept for the colonization of Mars, and it all happens in caves below the cratered surface. Spider-like webs are draped wall-to-wall, made from versatile basalt fibers, creating pathways to different levels. If spaciousness is what you require for a Martian home, then these dramatic dwellings may be at the top of your list. Built by solar-powered robotics, the underground structure resembles something of a beehive. We can see the hexagonal shapes molded by basaltic lava. Although an amazing alternative to spaceship living, we aren't wholly convinced by the colonization possibilities of Architect's concept. Could you imagine making a full-time abode out of this cave? When asked to imagine what Shanghai might look like in 2117 as part of the Shanghai Urban Space and Art Season Festival, Italian architect Stefano Berri's answer was a direct response to the dire problem of climate change. Instead of flash-forwarding to a stable future on the Chinese shore, he foresaw the city to be irrevocably devastated by flooding, and his vision was bound for Mars. He designed a series of eco-cities made up of vertical forests and domed-in seed-like pods that would be launched to Mars via an interplanetary space station. The Red Planet's new Shanghai would favor sustainable natural life for humans and plants alike. Taking an architectural rather than scientific approach to life on Mars, Berri's intergalactic vertical forests are heavily based on his earthly projects. His vertical forests, which create an urban, oxygen-rich landscape, have already been built in Milan and have plans to crop up in Paris, Switzerland, the Netherlands and China. In September 2017, the United Arab Emirates government took conceptual designs one step further and revealed plans for a simulation of the colonization of Mars. $140 million to construct. The Mars Science City will also be 3D printed, but instead of using the natural resources from the planet, it will instead use sand from the Emirati desert. A totally unique structure, it will be a not-so-many city, spanning 1.9 million square foot, hosting facilities for researchers and visitors alike, such as laboratories, space-like landscapes and museums. Beyond this, a specialist team will enroll themselves into the exploratory simulation full-time, living like an astronaut for a year in order to try and test out life on Mars. In a particularly desolate environment such as the Red Planet, it's important that a home is self-sufficient and protective. Luckily, this out-of-this-world home by Zephyrus, which is inspired by Earth-based biologies such as honeycombs and spiderwebs, is both of those things. Once landed on a suitable spot, It begins the 3D printing process. Impressively, Zophorus Creation deploys autonomous robots that gather useful materials from the surrounding environment to use in printing, creating a special blend of Martian concrete which absorbs harmful radiation. Inside, the communal shell is the building's social hub where astronauts can absorb breathtaking views from the mezzanine level. There is an abundance of useful features built into the residence, such as storage cubbies and air-locking facilities. The technology can also make additional prints once landed, and it's even able to produce more interlocking domes for future residents. Conceived for NASA's 3D Printed Habitat Challenge, AI Space Factory has presented a concept entitled the Martia Project, a 3D printed house that is optimized for construction on Mars. The shell of the structure is designed to withstand Martian winds and is firmly shackled to the planet's surface. Not only will this relieve any atmospheric stress, but it will also leave the ground unblemished. The ingenious dwelling can be printed in situ and has been endorsed by NASA. Each hub houses 4 astronauts in its futuristic living spaces, allowing enough room to work, eat, sleep and play. It also utilizes Martian circadian light technology which recreates earthly light, beneficial for one's mental health. On Mars, we'll need to grow our own food to survive, and the Martia Project has designed special indoor gardens to produce essential food sources on this infertile planet. Aside from the sophisticated science behind these designs, you can't deny their inherent beauty.
That get in coffins hundreds of times and giant pits of feces and have sex with each other. Okay? That's who's running things, wallowing in feces. That's what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. A Secretary of State that has had sex in giant vats of feces.